Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular council meeting to order for Monday, December the 11th. I would like to remind everyone that this meeting will be recorded for public access broadcast. I'd like to welcome everybody this evening. With that, can I get an adoption of the agenda, please? A motion for that? So moved by Councillor Orclides, seconded by Councillor Glant. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. With that, I'll remind participants that the conflict of interest forms are in the middle of the table. Should you have a conflict of interest on anything on the agenda this evening, please fill out the form and pass it into the clerk with the reason noted. With that, can I have item number 4, the adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting from November the 14th, 2023. So moved by Councillor Glant, seconded by Councillor Detory. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. With that, can I get item number 2? Committee of the whole meeting, November the 27th, 2023. Can I have a motion for that, please? So moved by Councillor Orclides, seconded by Councillor Glant. Questions to the motion? Questions to the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda items. Are there any questions to the consent agenda? With that, can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda items? So moved by Councillor Detory. Seconded by Councillor Orclides. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Sorry, do note Stephanie's. Contrary minded, motion carried. With that, we're going to move on to item number 6 under public administrative presentations. Peter Egner, is it Peter Egner? I can't. Egner, thank you, Peter. We'll be doing a presentation. This is the first presentation we've had under the new council, so I'm going to read out. So we had registered presentations for this evening prior to the beginning of the council agenda. As a reminder, under the procedural bylaw, presenters who register with the clerk's office at least 7 calendar days prior to the meeting are limited to 5 minutes. Anyone who wishes to address council that's not registered can do so this evening, but this is limited to 2 minutes per registration or presentation. So if anybody else would like to address council, they can put their name at the podium, and they'll be given 2 minutes. Councilmen may not entertain presentations on matters that may be considered in closed session pursuant to the Local Governance Act before the Planning Advisory Authority requires a statutory public hearing. Following the allotted time frame, you'll be notified that your time is up. The ringing of the bell at this time, council may, if they wish, ask questions to the presenter. If there are no questions, you're welcome to join us for the remainder of the meeting, should you choose. So this is so if you'd like to come to the podium and address council, we'd love to hear your presentation.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Good evening, sir.
I'd like to thank council for taking a few minutes to listen to me. My name is Peter Egner. I live in Upper Coverdale. I moved there in 1990 to get out of town. I like it there. I really do. A couple of years ago, the government came along and put a $150,000 increase assessment on my property. Imagine that. Promised us 2%, no more than 2% tax. Now we get absorbed by the village. Didn't ask for it, had no choice. Now the village comes along and asks for 11% increase in taxes to build a fire hall. I understand our valued firefighters have their needs, and they are much appreciated in this town. I mean, they do a hell of a job. But what I really like to ask is, has there been a study done to show that by building physical building for $1 million is going to improve our care, our quality of firefighting? million. A lot of money. The people you represent are having hard times. Everybody's had to tighten their belt. We got the gas tax, we got inflation, we got things going through the hell in the handbasket, basically, and things aren't getting much better. And along you come for 11%. I don't understand. How does a building, physical building, improve our services? Where's the need? I know that you need space. Has there been an alternative? There's lots of spaces available that we can store equipment. Maybe we can give these guys a hand. Maybe they need something. I don't know. I mean, if you need extra training, we have a hospital with a school next door with whiteboards, communication ability. You get the best training from the best firefighters in the world. I understand you would like to have that new building, but times are really tough. We just can't afford this right now. And I don't see where the feasibility is by building up a building is going to make things better. This is not the time to spend. This is time to get your eggs in order, get your plan in order, figure out where this community is going. Spend $1 million on a physical building is nice. I wish we could all do it. I'd like to buy a new car. Can't do it. Times are tough. People in this area don't make 11% increase a year. You're asking to take a week's worth of food off of their plate. And I would really like you to consider it, and I really would like you to explain how this building, one building, is going to improve matters. I really can't say because these guys are the ones that do the work. The building doesn't do the work. And I thank you for your time, and I'd like to have a response. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ranger. Is there anybody else that wishes to register to, is there any questions to the council? Is there anybody else that wishes to register to give a presentation?
You gonna read this?
I've sent it to her.
With that, we'll call on Constable Corporal Kevin Gloat from the RCMP to provide their update, please. Item number 2 under item 6.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks council for having me tonight. As the last time, we don't have something prepared officially. I know I sent Austin the new report that HQ is doing now, so Southeast HQ regarding stats. Those data though are regarding Q2. So Q3 stats will be in January. It's something I'd like all of you to have a look, and it gives an idea about numbers. Another thing that I'd like to follow up, maybe in the next meeting, and I'll be in touch because it was brought to my attention regarding citizens doing like some patrols, stuff like that. And I know back in the days, it used to be a thing here in Salisbury. I remember in 2009 when I started, there was the neighborhood watch, and citizens were actually going on patrol, but you know, the RCMP and lawsuits and stuff that we get away from it. However, in Moncton, there's a program, it's called Citizen on Patrol. It's only in Moncton right now. I reached out to Eric Lavos, who's community policing in charge over there. They do have a section just for regarding community policing, right? Which we don't. However, you really need to look to maybe have, like, let's say Salisbury would be on board, and we'd like to have Citizen on Patrol, something we can look to do the training. Their CMP can provide a 3-hour training to anybody from the community who would like to do this. But first thing first would be to see if there would be an interest, if anybody in the community would be interested. So if you guys receive any emails from citizens that would like to be volunteer. Obviously, you don't get paid for this, but like to patrol at night and see what's going on. They're welcome to get in touch with you and gather the names. We'll start from there. And after that, I'll do my part. I'm gonna see if we can maybe join the Kodiak training. And I know the CPO too, which I didn't have time to talk to him today, but they also should be aware of that program. So it's really new for me. I only learned that today, actually. I didn't know. I thought the RCMP backed up regarding this. But the way this works is really citizen report stuff that are non-emergency. They can send an email to an email address that it goes to the police, and then they can read it. Obviously, if it's an emergency, they call 911, so it's the same as anybody as a citizen, right? Another thing I just want to pinpoint, I mean, is that citizen on patrol can solve crime, maybe not, but can probably be eyes and ears from the community just to be out there and see what's going on and be aware of it. Also, I can't emphasize enough that everyone has a role to play in the community and needs to report crime when it happens or the next day. And I like to give the example of you got broken into your shed, you just came back from vacation 2 weeks, but hey, I'm just missing my snowblower, so I'm not gonna call because I know the police won't do anything. That's the mentality that I'm trying to change, and I want people to call it in, because it's really important to understand that we do have analysts that works, and sometimes we can find your snowblower and you're not even aware. So we have section, it's called the callback unit. So those calls, when it's not emergency, it goes directly to them and they can type up the file. Well, every year we're asking for more bodies, asking for more, but we need the stats. So if people don't report because they think nothing can be done, and you're right, sometimes maybe we're not gonna find who did it. A lot of time we will, and it's really important for us, so you guys called it in. If you think it's not important, well, that's the mentality I'd like the community to change right off the bat, right? That's just a point I wanted to touch on. Regarding the sergeant position in Riverview, which is Caledonia RCMP, I've been acting in the past year. It was announced last week that the new guy is Sergeant Ricky LeBlanc. So Ricky LeBlanc was actually was doing the same as I do, but in Richiboutou for the past year. I know him personally as well, so you guys will be in good hands with him. We don't have a date of him starting in Caledonia, but I'll let him know about all of you and the contacts, and if you need anything, again, I'm there. I've been in the community for a long time, and I know a lot of faces, so I'm also reachable by email, phone number. Austin called me. I have no problem at all. That's how the community and the RCMP should be. And same with everybody in the room here that are citizens. If you have anything you want to chat, we chatted with you before. So really, that's how policing should be, and just being open book, and communication has to be A1, because sometimes that's where I think we lack communication. So do you have any questions for me that I can answer?
First of all, thank you for all that you do. I think communication is the key. I think, we often hear or see the things on Facebook or the comments. I do think that we have to constantly be diligent, I guess, letting the public know that they do need to let you know about things where, I'll be told different things about things happening. I said, I'm not the police. We really need to be reporting it to you. You guys are the ones that, again, the more intelligence you have, the better off you'll be to be able to solve those crimes. I think we've all seen on Facebook where people are posting about cars being broken into, or whether people think that there's activity going on in a particular area. Again, on that, it's nice to talk about it, but we really, we have to let you guys know about it. So this is being reported, so I do hope the public does see that. So when they see the posts on Facebook about these type of things, I think the very first thing they should be posting back is not criticizing you. They should be saying, have you called it in? Because again, I do know you can't solve things you don't know about.
So I got a couple questions.
Go ahead.
First of all, do we have a contact in Moncton if we needed to get in touch with someone there about this citizen on patrol?
I have it.
if you give it to Austin so that.
Yeah.
It'd be great. If it's new for them, then obviously.
It's already in the plan, for me tomorrow to follow up
Right.
with Eric Cleverell, who's the guy I'm talking to, and there's another other officer. I gotta reach out to know, and I wanna talk to our CPO, Thomas Leger, dealing a lot with the schools and the students. He's aware of this, and I printed this, which was, from Kodiak, so, I read a little bit about it, but when I talked to Eric earlier, he basically told me, first thing first is to see if there's an interest, right? We can talk about it all day long, but if nobody wants to do it, or sometimes people will say, yeah, let's do it, then they get the training and they don't do it. So we need like serious people from the community that like, and we don't need to be 10, we can have 2, 3, and have 4, that would like to get that training. And, that training is provided by the RCMP, which I have no clue what it is, but I'm just assuming that it's, basically be the eyes and ears, right? Don't go directly and talk to the suspect if you see something going on, and call 911 if you see it's a 911 situation like any other citizen should do. If they see an impaired driver, or if they see a theft in progress, you call 911, right? That's what citizens do. So, but I will obviously follow up with this and get back to Austin, who can share.
Sure. And, you know, we used to do, not necessarily here, I know in previous places that I lived, neighborhood watch. I haven't heard much about that. I know a previous counselor had mentioned it, and we don't seem to be going anywhere with that. Is there any information that we can get about reintroducing a program, or letting residents who might be interested in establishing that program in their neighborhood? I know what a lot of residents are doing. I know we're doing it on our street, is we've just created a Facebook Messenger site. Just amongst the homes on our street. And if we see something strange, we just send out the message to everybody. Sometimes the neighbors will say, look, I'm gonna be away for a day. There, you know, my son's gonna come pick something up that's, I left for him. That's who's gonna be there. We've kind of gotten into that habit. It's nice to be able to do things like that, so you feel like it's not just your eyes and ears for your home. But in the absence of something more formalized, that's basically what I'm hearing other communities are doing. You heard anything like that?
Well, to be honest with you, this to me, I think is the best way to do things. Like you mentioned, having like small communities, like your street and where you live and stuff like that. What used to be existing doesn't exist anymore, based on, like, back in the days, they used to call our dispatch and be, okay, I'm John Doe and I'm patrolling Salisbury today. And we used to receive a message that John Doe's driving a red car. And I used to call John Doe and be, nice seeing you tonight, call me if there's anything. The RCMP got away from it. I don't know if it's a liability thing, but the only current thing that I can see right now is the citizen on patrol, which kind of the same thing, it's the same mentality, right? But having small group like you mentioned, you're having with your street, personally, I think it's awesome. Like I said, this citizen on patrol is volunteer, so we need people that are ready to volunteer, right? It's fine and dandy if we say, let's create it, but there's nobody that wants to do it, right? Because it's volunteer. So we have technology, Facebook, Instagram, you want to create that, that's awesome, and we cannot stop you from doing so, right? The only thing I can share is I'd like people to call when needed. We see those posts all the time also, right? I see it myself, and, you know, maybe the question's gonna come and I'll talk about it. It's okay, there's an incident that happened in Salisbury yesterday. All over Facebook, well, it's all under control. You know, I cannot share any detail of it, but, we took care of it, because we knew, we got called. Right. There's no risk for the public, I can guarantee you that. It's an isolated event, there's nothing to be scared of,
Right.
because we would have done something else.
So that's a good point, and I wasn't gonna ask this question, but you mentioned it. Is there, I just saw some of the early posts about this, and when this first came out, no one actually had any answers. Everybody was asking everyone else. You mentioned that you took care of it. Would there be any value in the RCMP going out to the community and saying, you know, there was an incident, you can say, there's not much that you can, details you can give, but the situation has been taken care of, to provide some sense of comfort for the community. Because if they know that something untoward's happened, but they don't know that, you know, whoever the perpetrator was taken care of, it might continue to cause concern. So that's the only thing that I would say as it relates to that. And is there some way that that can be linked in with us? If someone called the office and said, by the way, we know there's a lot of chatter on Facebook about this particular incident, can we go on our Facebook site and just say, by the way, this has been taken care of, no further details.
No, you're right, and this is my job, and I do it all the time. Today I got busy focusing on getting the suspect, if I can call it. Soon as there's charge late, I will do a news release and you'll be made aware. I think citizen can wait 48 hours when it's not an emergency, right? In my book, it wasn't today,
Right.
but don't be surprised if in the next 2 days you see something on the
That's great.
RCMP website, right?
Okay.
Which we always do. If it would have been an imminent risk for the public, you would have get the message, it would have been made aware. Sometimes I think people need to ask, they're asking for answer when it's, I'm trying to say it politely, when it's not their business, but we're aware of it, right? As soon as we're gonna lay charges, we're gonna be able to, then mention the name, and I think it's gonna be more weight, because I could have done a news, release today and, without any information, so the critic from the public would have been the same about, okay, well, it's worth nothing for me, but there's no detail. So I'd rather wait until probably tomorrow before I type up something, or the next day, because it has to go through the chain of command and Fredericton, so sometimes there's a little delay, and depending on priorities too, right, on news release, because news release, there's some every day. They're gonna prioritize missing person, stuff that are more important than an incident that has nothing to do with the community, it's totally isolated. And, but yeah, you will hear about it.
So I promise this is my last question.
You go ahead, no problem.
So I guess the question I would ask is, we're all very aware of the challenges being faced in the city of Moncton, particularly in the downtown area. And that seems to have escalated over the course of the last number of years and probably hit a high, if you will, over the last year or two. Have you seen, or should we be concerned about some of that spilling over into not just our communities, but other outside communities? And are you seeing any of that, or is the RCMP concerned about that?
Well, we see it as a police officer for 15 years, I can see it. Sure, I work in Moncton as well. I'm not sure exactly what you related to, but I think he's talking about the drugs maybe.
Well, that would just be one thing. We know there's trafficking going on. We know there's drugs going on. And I mean, human trafficking going on in the city of Moncton. We're seeing all kinds of, thefts and other physical violence that you hear about. And I guess, we're, at least when you're in the city of Moncton, you've got a detachment there, you've got all kinds of, resources, albeit I'm sure it's still not enough for them either. But when, our resources here are limited, at some point in time, if we start seeing more and more of that sort of making its way outside of the city, we're gonna have to figure out how we deal with that.
And you're right, I mean, it's, and I'm sure I got zero control on that, but, what I can say is that in the last year, we Caledonia, with Patrol Solid, we're gonna have an increase of 6 positions, right? And I share that in the last meeting, which is awesome for us, because I think we were overdue, for a while. And I'm just gonna send the ball back to you, saying to council that you guys will need to fight for a position in the future. And yes, if there's an increase of something, the only thing I can guarantee is we're doing our best. There's overtime, there's people on training, there's people who are sick. Our SMP is a big machine, not much we can do.
Yeah, well, again, but I guess my question
Yeah.
wasn't so much about you guys.
Yeah.
I think we're all painfully aware of the limitations as it relates to resources, and we can't say enough about the support that we get from you and your colleagues. Are we starting to see that coming into our community? Is it something that we need to be concerned about in terms of the frequency of it?
I think yes. To be honest, the word changed, there's a lot of drugs, there's more drugs, there's different type of drugs. Her job is not as easier, like, we're gonna have body cams soon, we have to be accountable for his action, and I get that 100%. Do we need more members? 100%. It goes up so high, and I can't even talk about it. It comes back to the federal, it comes back to the policies, the law itself, right? So, yes, if we can have a casual conversation, I can talk to you about the difference between a couple of years ago when we used to arrest people and put them to jail, but now there's new bill, law, and those bill, sometimes are not in our advantage, because those people, those prolific offenders, if I may call them, they reoffend, but they get out. So as a police officer, I can see the big machine politic, having an impact for sure.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's gonna get better. I really wish, but it's a tough question. It's back to, federal. I'm just a little guy down below that, trying to, make the community a better place, and, you know, if you commit a crime, you'll get arrested, and whatever happened after in court, I have zero, power.
Right.
Just out of curiosity, that statement on prolific offenders, if at a certain point you know you're just gonna leave right up back at the door, is there any point in picking them up?
Well, yeah, if they commit a crime, yeah.
But
But
at a
if
certain
you,
point from your perspective,
no, but I mean,
no way to resign.
we can go back to the plan. Hey, yeah, the guy who stole in your vehicle, we picked him up. You got released, right? It's not my fault.
I don't know,
It's
but,
my job, but.
but at a certain point, you guys are gonna say, what's the point?
Well, I think part of our job needs to be is that we keep hearing about repeat offenders and they're taking up resources and they're committing crimes in our community. Not that we have the power to make those changes, but we need to escalate to the province, and the province needs to be supportive of our communities to change some of these laws where these guys are, you know, getting caught and then
Yep.
being let loose again into the community. This is ridiculous.
And
And
I see it as a police officer, I can, you know, it's hard maybe for citizens to think, but me, it's my job and I can see it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. What can be done, coming back to what I talked about at first, and community has a role to call it in and, you know, being our eyes and ears, and, you know, we're talking about drugs, and obviously, how do you think we bust some houses sometimes? Because people talk to us. Yeah. Good, bad people that talk to us, source, like that's how the big machine is.
Right.
If, people are not talking to us, that's why I put a lot of emphasis on this, and the rest, I mean, is it possible we're not gonna catch who stole your car one day? Yeah, 100%. Everybody's got a negative incident with the police at one point and have their own opinion, and I respect that, but maybe try to put that aside and just do your job as a citizen and call us and hope for the best, I guess. The rest is, you know, you did your part, then it's our job after. But when we don't know about the situation, or we learn on Facebook, it's hard, right? To do something after the fact. But when someone call 911 and we know right away, we're gonna respond, at least we're aware, we're gonna take the necessary step. If there's a risk for, public safety, we're gonna take care of it. Yes, I'm talking about Caledonia resources, but the beauty of the RSMP is that if something big happen, well, we're gonna have Sussex, we're gonna have Moncton, we're gonna have the chopper, we're gonna have everybody that's gonna respond, depending on the gravity of the situation. We're gonna work along with our partners, fire, like it's been awesome, like for years, work along with those guys, we get to accident and they do traffic for us. Well, they don't know, but they help us a lot by doing this, right? But it's just working with everybody and trying their best.
I'm really curious to see the stats in January, just because
Yep.
Facebook wise, right, there's a break-in every week.
Mhm.
Multiple
Mhm.
cars and thefts and,
Yeah.
you know, 3 to 5 years ago, that didn't happen. It was a big deal if somebody's car got stolen, and it
Yeah,
just seems to be very, very
People are-
frequent. I'm just curious if the stats will show the reality of what we all know based on Facebook or conversation.
And there's a percentage that are not reporting it because they don't think that
Yeah.
anything's
Yeah.
gonna come out of it.
And I saw those posts myself too on Salisbury, what happened, I see those, and I read the comments sometimes when I'm bored or whatever. But I understand the frustration sometimes, but the fact is, sometimes there's a smart comment about, well, did you call the police? And well, there's no point, right? So I see those and I call some people myself, and hey, why don't you call? Kevin with the RSMP, maybe if you call, maybe we'll, just so you know, by the way, We've got those guys in Moncton. People don't know that. We're not gonna do a news release for petty theft or everything, right? There's a lot of stuff that citizens are not aware of, that it's good police work. I was talking to before the, 2 days ago, we got you know, good stats, but like totally, we're not gonna disclose this to everybody.
Well, if the bad guys know there, no one's gonna report it, that's gonna encourage them to do even more.
And just to give you an idea, about 2 days ago, where I was talking to you, before the meeting, it's just sometimes when you think it's fishy and you see a suspicious vehicle or someone in your yard, you get that feeling that something's wrong, right? So that person I'm thinking of is, she called the police just to report suspicious vehicle. There's something fishy here, I'm gonna call it in. Well, we knew it was more than fishy because we had a call earlier regarding the same vehicle. We're actually looking for that car, so that person didn't know, but make us a big favor by saying, you know, I'm gonna call it in, because she didn't know that hours before we were looking for that truck. And we looked everywhere, couldn't find it. And she calls saying, oh, maybe it's nothing, well, I'm just gonna give them a call. Well, hats off to her because she made the right call and we got the guy. With that small little call, thinking it's a suspicious vehicle. Yeah, it's suspicious, so. You know where you live, you know your neighbors, you know, you see something that doesn't add up, give us a call, right? You get the plate, you walk by with your dog, you get the plate, buddy's been parked there since 5 and it's 9. Every night you walk with your dog, it's never there. Call it in. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's the guy we're looking for. So that's just the message I'm trying to pass on, to council and everybody. That's it.
Yeah, I think as counselors, we have a job to do to educate the public on that as well. Deputy Mayor Bannister and I were on a call earlier this year, and Crime Stoppers got brought up a lot. So I just wanted to ask, is that, and it seemed to be more prevalent maybe in a couple of the northern.
In the
communities,
northern.
Very active. We're just very curious on that. I mean, obviously, we'd love to hear what the citizens on patrol, but we love to hear what other communities are doing and what happens. And it just seemed that this counselor from another community just raved about the Crime Stoppers, and I just don't hear about them very much down in our area.
So the Crime Stoppers, we do have, I used to do those for at least 8 years. So basically, it's an option for everybody that doesn't want to share their name or date of birth, because obviously when you call the police, the dispatch for safety reasons, gonna ask your personal information. And that's totally like, you can call dispatch and say, listen, I'd rather not share my information, but this is what I'm seeing now. I got this suspicious vehicle. You can't do that. The other option is Crime Stopper, where you can go online and report stuff or you're aware of. The Crime Stopper is really confidential. Even us, when we receive it, you're a number. Sometimes with that information, if it leads to an arrest or charges, that tip can be updated and that tipster can be paid. But it's not me doing that, right? It's totally confidential. We do have Crime Stopper meeting every month that we go. Yeah, it's a valuable tool, especially I'll give you like in town, outside the city, we do have a few less Crime Stoppers compared to Moncton. That information though has to be reliable, so it's hard for Crime Stopper tip to be reliable. So, but it's really good information. Each tip opens up a file. So if you're saying this address, they're selling drugs, because I know, because my uncle told me and he went there and bought some, it's documented somewhere. So if down the road there's new information and decide to do a search warrant to go into the house and turn out there's drug, that tipster can be paid only after there's the Crime Stopper meeting and we decide an amount. There's some criteria. And once the amount is selected, we don't, like yours, if you don't do anything, but those volunteers take care of it. It's a really good tool. It's another option available for the public, which I say sometimes people don't like to call the police for X reason because they never did in their life, and you know, perfect, call Crime Stopper. Go online and you can report it. And online you can also exchange some information. You can add pictures, but you have to be careful about if you don't want to divulge your identity and your first line is I'm the sister of so on. right? So sometimes I see those, but, I don't know. It's just me, but it's a great tool to use, and if you refer to public too, if they don't want to call us for it.
Additional question? Yeah, Corporal, I just want to thank, I mean, what people in the public need to understand is that we do reach out on the side. I know that our office reaches out for, constantly, and, we do have an open communication. I think people need to realize, and we're very appreciative for that. You've been a great resource for us. I just want to thank you personally for that. And, even you're there for the crime, but you're there for, again, educating our youth as well. Things that come into our parades and stuff like that on Saturday night, very appreciated to make that presence. Very important to our community, and, I know that you get a lot of bad feedback just on the presence, but I do know that you're there, and we just have to educate the public to utilize you more. It's a big territory to cover, obviously, we recognize that, but again, we will continue to do our job to educate the public on letting you know that things are happening, so.
Yeah, no, that's all I can ask, and, thanks for having me. Coming back to the parade, I think we need to be to those community events. It's really important in my book to be present. I know we were in Petitcodiac as well this year, and I heard we weren't there for the past couple of years. Well, my answers were like, maybe nobody called us, right? So,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Every time I've
Just
ever
reach
asked
out
you
to
guys
us.
to be at something, you guys tell me.
yeah, and if we can't, really because something big happened, but we're gonna plan ahead. We're gonna have more member work. We're gonna change schedule if needed, but those community events, it's really important. I'm sure the firefighter, like same thing. We have to be there. It's cool. Like it's really important. So,
Yeah.
anytime.
Thank you very much, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 7, reports and recommendations from committees and private meetings. Number 1, recommendations from the closed session of November the 14th. November 14th.
I'm not sure if this is from the 27th, I think, so I'll just do the
recommendations. Closed session November 14th and 27th, 2023.
So the first one is related to circular materials, or the EPR PPP program service agreement, as a mouthful. So as always, with anything that comes from closed, we'll give the background information prior to the motion or recommendation on the table. So as required by the government of New Brunswick, the town of Salisbury is required to opt in or opt out of a mandated extender producer responsibility EPR program for paper, plastics, and packaging. This will require the town to become a contractor for circular materials for this collection, to then be contracted by the town's waste collection contractor, or to have circular materials collect the recyclables curbside. The town is within the second phase within the province, with the first phase having started implementation in November last month of 2023. The town is required to inform circular materials by December 18th, 2023 of their intent to opt in or opt out of the program. In a closed session on November 27th, 2023, Salisbury Town Council discussed the statement of work or the contract to determine the financial and overall risks to the municipality. To limit disruption in provision of service to residents curbside, the town has determined that opting into the program presents the most reasonable option for ratepayers. I will note that since the agenda package was circulated last week, municipalities within the Southeast had a session with each other, with the Service Commission, or Eco 360 specifically, to determine who is opting in or opting out. It was recommended at that meeting, or as part of that discussion, for those who have not already made a decision to opt in or opt out, to amend their motion to be able to have flexibility related to the wording within the motion as it relates to the actual agreement. So the package that council has received does have the recommendation to essentially sign and affix the corporate seal on the agreement. We've since modified the wording, which essentially adds that the signing and affixing of the seal is pending a finalized legal agreement that is satisfactory to both parties. So all municipalities have similar concerns that we have. So we do have updated wording for the recommendation for anyone who wants to move it, and I have it printed so that we can make sure we have the right wording.
I can do it.
Sorry, there we go.
I move that council authorize administration to inform circular materials of the town of Salisbury's intent to opt into the paper plastic packaging PPP program being mandated by the government of New Brunswick, pending a finalized legal agreement that is satisfactory to both parties, and at such a time authorize the clerk and mayor to sign and affix the corporate seal accordingly.
Moved by Councilor Colwell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bannister. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion? All in favor? Minded?
Nay,
Motion carried.
will not be unanimous.
That's why we're laughing.
The next is from first meeting, sorry, so November 14th, related to the animal control contract. So the NBSPCA is the current animal control service provider for Ward 3 of the former village boundaries in contract with the former municipal entity being the village of Salisbury. And they are also the contractor for the former local service districts or LSDs through the New Brunswick Rural Dog Contract, which is set to expire in 2024. To update the former contract within Ward 3 and in anticipation of assuming responsibility for the remainder of the municipal boundaries as of 2025, the town has negotiated a contract with NBSPCA for these services. As discussed in a closed session on November 14th, 2023, an agreement with NBSPCA for these services with the option to automatically apply to the full town, essentially at the expiration of the rural dog contract, has been negotiated as of January 1, 2025 for the full entity, and for as of January 1, 2024 for the former village. With that, there is a recommendation on the table.
I move that council authorize the clerk and the mayor to sign and affix the corporate seal on the municipal animal control contract between the New Brunswick Society and the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, NBSPCA, and the town of Salisbury for a period of 3 years with an optional extension of 2 years, as per the terms of the agreement.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Bannister, seconded by Councilor Venus. Questions to the motion?
Does the contract in the other wards expire at the end of 2024? Okay.
So the contract, essentially, the way it's worded is that it will apply to where they're currently contracted for, Ward 3, basically from January 1 to December 31 of next year. And then the fee reflects that, and the wording is framed in such a way that as of January 1, it just takes effect to the full boundaries at the expiration of that. So just makes it a seamless switch instead of, otherwise we'd have to come back and amend the agreement again.
Additional questions?
What about the registering of these? Did you guys discuss that?
Yes.
What-
So for 2024, it will stay the same status quo per se. So the former village Ward 3 boundaries will continue to be done through the office here. NBSPCA and in their proposed contract, that was something that we had changed to make sure that we had the flexibility to do it. Uses what's called DocuPet, so it's exclusively online. I think it's used by all the tri-communities as well, neighboring that way. I'm not sure about some of the smaller ones. So the intent is this year, we'll have conversations around what do we do moving forward as of 2025. Also, given the fact that the dog tags for next year are ordered, so for the former ward, so it doesn't make sense to switch that now. But next year we'll have conversations, and that's part of the role for the protective services position as well. There'll be that primary contact for the NBSPCA, and then we'll determine if it can be a hybrid approach where there's in-person and online options, because there can obviously be challenges with migrating online right away when it's something new. So the contract is worded in a way that gives us the flexibility for it, but it will be something discussed next year.
If the outside region has been used to doing the online registering, it's gonna be more difficult for them to have to come in and have to do it in person now, because they have been accustomed to the convenience
Yeah.
of doing it online.
And that's why
So,
I don't think that will change. I think the change that people will primarily see, if any, will be in the former Ward 3 as of
Right.
2025. But that is probably part of the reason that we'll probably go to a more hybrid approach. There's no, like, we aren't familiar with DocuPet to know if it's something, for example, again, to be discussed next year with NBSPCA, but if someone comes in person, can we just register them through DocuPet here at the
Right.
office, right? Like, does that make a difference?
Yeah.
And accept payment that way, like there's options
Right.
there, we just have to
Yeah.
figure out the logistics of it, that's all.
They've been using DocuText for how long? Do you know, earlier?
Outside it, that's a good question, I don't know, I'm not sure.
So,
A lot, quite honestly, we get the question regularly, that was one of the things we heard throughout reform. Well, I don't wanna have to get a dog tag, well, you still had to. get a
Yeah, no,
dog
it's always,
Yeah, exactly.
that's always been the case in the rural area. It was always a requirement. So this has nothing to do with reform. It's been a rule that's in place.
The other thing is our clinic will sell them for us.
which may not happen if we go to dog vet. So right now until March, from January to March, if you go get your dog vaccinated or whatever, you can buy the tank right there for the inside. So not for outside because they go through it. So I don't, that's something that we would have to consider. It might not happen next year.
So we're gonna give us some time. We changed the wording intentionally because the wording was, it basically was DocuPet or NBSPCA doesn't do it. So it gives us that time to give that
Yes.
conversation between
Good.
both of us.
I don't have any pets, so
Yeah.
just asking for a friend.
There you go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Section 8 now.
Section 8, report from administration, 2024 operating utility budget resolution.
So on November the 14th, council approved the 2024 utilities and the general budget. And as usual, they are forwarded to the province and they reviewed them. They came back with a couple of things that needed to be adjusted. We require 2 updated motions because of these adjustments from council relating to this 2024 operating and utility budget, both of them. Again, this does not affect the tax rate in any way, does not affect the expenditures. In the operating budget, the reserve transfer was removed. Sorry, in the utility budget, the reserve transfer was removed from the revenue and the same amount removed from the expenditures, which makes no impact on the rate. The updated motions are required due to a rounding difference with the province's new budget portal and the forms that were provided that we used when we were calculating. So it's just a minor adjustment. If somebody would mind helping those motions.
Is it Those
Yeah.
are I'll move the first one.
The long one.
Yeah. I'll move that on this 11th day of December 2023, the Council of the Local Governments of Salisbury resolved that the sum of $6,912,184 be the total operating budget for the local government, that the sum of $6,449,000, this is just 449,442.71, I'm gonna do it that way, be the warrant of the local government for the ensuing year, and that the tax rates for the local government be $675. Salisbury,
No,
Sorry, just list that like the taxation authority there. So just say
that's just a number.
oh,
That's not a
675. Do I have to read all the?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, sorry. Salisbury Village, 1.1599, 675.01, Coverdale LD, 0.6335, 675.02, Salisbury LD, 0.6346, 675.03, Moncton LD, 0.6394, 675.04, Elgin Parish LD, 0.6388. The council orders directs the levying by the Minister of Local Government of said amount on real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the local government of Salisbury, adopted this 11th day of December 2023 by the Council of the Local Government of Salisbury.
Seconded.
So moved by Councillor Colwell, seconded by Councillor Glant. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
I move that on this 11th day of December 2023, that the Council of the Local Government of Salisbury resolved that pursuant to section 1174 of the Local Governance Act, that the total budget for the wastewater utility for the ensuing year would consist of total revenues of $492,640 and the total expenditures of $492,640, adopted this 11th day of December 2023 by the Council of the Local Government of Salisbury.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Bannister, seconded by Councillor Olinas. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Very minded? Motion carried.
Next one under 8.2 is a grant request, is not related to a previous agenda item, but is connected in some way. So earlier this year, a grant request was submitted by a resident within the community for the purchase of a live dog trap to be used for missing or on the run dogs. It is a newer organization per se called On the Lam Dog Rescue. So the request in full was included in the memo. We held the request as we were going through the negotiation or updating process for the animal control agreement to make sure that it was not a duplicated service or that it was not something that's covered under the provisions of the MBSPCA agreement. We've chatted with them, being MBSPCA, to confirm that it's something that they called complementary to their service. So we're proposing or recommending that this is a grant that can be approved. It lists also in the memo that we're under budget in our grant budget as well. And also in our year-end projections, we've had enough earmarked as a buffer to account for this as well. You'll also see that in the recommendation, our recommendation is that because it's something that would be purchased, that it's purchased and then we provide the grant essentially as a reimbursement. And then it'd be conditional that the group inform the NBSPCA to make sure that where we have them contracted for this type of service, they're not going to go out and try to locate pets that are on the run like this group will, but that to make sure that it's reflected in our basically stats that the NBSPCA will start giving us on a quarterly basis, that they're included. So that's the background there, and there is a recommendation on the floor.
I move the council approve a grant in the amount not to exceed $1,100 to be paid upon proof of payment for the purchase of a live trap to be used by the On the Lam Dog Rescue to assist with escaped and or missing dogs in the area. That this grant be conditional on the group informing NBSPCA, the animal control officers contracted by the town when rescues are being undertaken within the town of Salisbury to request their assistance as may be needed.
Moved by Councillor Natori,
Second.
seconded by Councillor Glant. Questions to the motion?
I have one, where this is a new organization. If somewhere in the next few years, the organization stops operating, can we request that they return the trap to the town's owner?
Good question. We can do that. Yeah, we can. I think we can just have that discussion with the group in particular. I don't know. Should we add it to the motion? Should we? I think we can have that discussion with them. I think that's another reason that it's important that they have that relationship with MBSPCA, because ultimately we would probably give the trap to them, to the MBSPCA. Like we wouldn't keep it, I don't think. But
I think it's
that is something we can have a
negotiate
conversation.
that assets to be used in our area.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Councillor Davis.
Yeah.
My only other question, I guess, is where it is an organization and they are obviously trapping dogs. Are there any liability potential issues that we'll be opening ourselves up for?
We had that conversation with the applicant for that specific reason. And it's essentially, there will probably be some sort of, or there will be some sort of, not agreement, but basically letter that when we provide the formal reimbursement to them to make sure that that's reflected in there. And there's also, it'll be similar wording to what the SPCA has for us to make sure that we're absolved or indemnified, I guess is the word, of any liability. Yeah. And we'll just include that, as what Councillor Lena said in that same piece, that there's an obligation there to return it.
They've done some really great work this
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah, and they've been, I can't remember if that was in the original one or if it was in one after through the back and forth, but they've had to use crates or traps from Fundy, from St. John area, I forget exactly, but in our drive, so this will facilitate that process as well.
Just to piggyback on Nathan's comment, I wonder if it makes sense to actually own this live trap ourselves and rent it to them for $1 a year or some nominal fee, rather than giving them the grant for it, if you want it returned.
The only thing is if
We're not open.
the chances of them only happening Monday to Friday per se.
Oh, they can store it themselves.
Yeah,
You can still own it. That way, if they become defunct for one reason or another, it is returned.
I
If
see.
we gained ownership, though, would we
We,
hold that
The-
liability?
yes, I would say that you would open yourself up to liability. The grant thing just removes, it removes that
Yeah, but does
liability.
a rental car company, when you rent a car, are they liable for the car? No. that's your own insurance or the insurance provided through them. It's part of the rental agreement. They-
Yeah, I mean, they're in the rental business, so they have, you know,
We can check on the liability piece with,
Similar outcome.
with that ownership.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
Actually, either assume it or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Make a note, time of year, how many sessions we'll have for the end of the year.
What-
So are we good to proceed with this or do you?
Yeah, we can proceed with, unless there's a pass, obviously, but we can include in the agreement.
Multiple structures.
We'll consult to determine with our counsel, like legal counsel.
Legal.
Based on the wording of what we need to include based on the ownership itself.
Any additional questions? No additional questions to the motion. All in favor? Aye.
I,
Minded? Motion carried. With that, we'll move on to item number 9, bylaws.
None this evening. I gave the similar update in the November meeting, the last one as it relates to the ATV bylaw. We're waiting for confirmation as it relates to areas outside of the former Village of Salisbury boundaries. So to get clarification from MBGTI as it relates to highway use permits or something included in the bylaw. So we're still waiting to hear back from that. And because it will sit with the province for 8 months is the last one that responded back to get their approval. We're waiting to bring it to council until we get approval or not approval, confirmation on the process there as to whether or not it's included in the bylaw, because if it's included and it can't be, they'll punt it back anyways. So we're just getting that confirmation ahead of time to figure out where we go. But that is expected, we thought, by this one. So hopefully the first one in the new year, pending holiday vacations and such at the province.
Distracted by knowledge.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, with that, we'll be moving on to item number 10, which is a closed session personnel 68(1) J of the Local Governance Act. With that, I will get a motion and then I have to ask the members of the gallery to leave, please.
move that we go in,
Okay,
I move that we go into closed session.
so moved by Deputy Mayor Bannister, seconded by Councillor Detory. We're now entering closed and I will ask the individuals in the gallery to please leave. Can I have a motion to enter back into the regular council meeting?
I move to return back into the regular council meeting.
So moved by Councillor Dykstra, seconded by Councillor Glenn first. So all in, all in favor?
Aye.
Minded? We'll now enter back into the regular council.
We will go get the people.
And we're going to allow people to come back to the chamber.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I can show this.
What?
I gotta step out a second, but start with. Shut anyways.
Everybody has returned.
Okay, we'll move on to item 11, mayor and councillor statements and inquiries. I will make a statement. We did have a couple of, an email and a letter regarding recent budget. I just want to make a note that any correspondence such as that does become part of public record, and they were responded to, which would be part of the consent agenda item tonight, and those responses would be sent out. So I just want to make sure that as that recording goes out, that there was a response to the inquiries that were made. And as always, that would be the case on any correspondence with council. Any additional councillor statements?
I'd like to thank everybody who was a part of the parade on Saturday. It was really well attended and well done.
Yeah, I think, even getting back to Corporal Bload and the firefighters that were here this evening, and the staff that were all here, and staff, community members, it was both nights. We had Friday night, the tree lighting, and Saturday with the parade. It was phenomenal. Councillor Thorne?
I just wanted to echo the same thing, Councilor Oblina said, but also the cookie crawl was such a great new addition, to town events this year. My daughter and I did it. We loved it. So I hope that we can continue with that next year. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, kudos to Katie for the work that she did
Yeah,
on the cookie crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
nice.
Well, Cookie Crawl, plus she was at the events I mean, you know, our staff are phenomenal, so I don't think you guys can make credit, so. Again, you know, evenings, weekends, to your families, thank you. But it definitely does make a great community. I know that we got such great feedback. Not just, it's been a couple of weeks of different things going on in our community. It's been, pretty vibrant. So thank you very much for everybody that came out. The picture frame, by the way, I know that, you want us to light up the whole community, Councillor Thorne, but that picture frame in the park, it had so much use on,
Yes.
Friday night from different people taking pictures. It was great.
Yeah. It was great.
It's a start.
It's a start, but you know what, we can't do it all overnight, so, but thank you very much. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Or, no, sorry, there's no notices of motion, I don't believe we're ready. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved by Councillor Gallant, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bannister, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.